Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of the Handyman Sportscast. I wanted to first give a quick shout out to all of you that listened to my last show, and for those of you that gave me some feedback, I do appreciate it. More importantly, to show that I'm willing to branch out a little bit, I'm happy to say that my next show I will be having a special commentator working with me. Sorry I couldn't do it this time, so you'll just have to deal with me for one more show. I do have quite a bit to talk about today, so let's just jump right into it. I'm not really sure how many of you are keeping track of the whole Washington Redskins saga that has been going on currently in the news and has been going on for probably, the last year and a half or so. But it seems like things are getting a little more interesting. I don't know how many of you in certain areas of the city in the world, or even those of you that actually got to see the commercial that was aired during halftime of last night's Game 3. A California Native American tribe known as the Yochadihi Winton Nation had an ad that aired with its aim right at the Washington Redskins. It was reported in the Washington Post that the ad would be airing in 7 major cities: Chicago, Dallas, Los Angeles, New York, Sacramento, San Francisco, and Washington. The ad also appeared in Miami during Game 2 of the finals. I'm actually going to be putting a poll question on my page after this so that you can actually look at. And I want to know, did any of you get to see the commercial from last night? And more importantly, should the Washington Redskins change their name? I'm pretty sure that to the high percentage of you that will listen to this and actually vote, I'm pretty confident many of you will probably answer yes. But I'm not here to tell you what to vote and how. So what I actually want to do right now, in case those of you that didn't get to watch it, I'm actually going to play the audio clip from this commercial. You can actually find it on YouTube. I'm actually going to post a link on it as well on my blog, so you can watch it there as well. I want to play this for you right now. Here we go. Here is the commercial from last night's game. It is called Proud to Be.
Proud. Forgotten. Indian, Navajo, Blackfoot, Inuit, and Sioux. Survivor, spiritualist, patriot. Sitting Bull, Hiawatha, and Jim Thorpe. Mother, father, son, daughter, chief. Apache, Pueblo, Choctaw, Chippewa, and Crow. Underserved, struggling, resilient. Squanto, Red Cloud, Tecumseh, and Crazy Horse. Rancher, teacher, doctor, soldier. Seminole, Seneca, Mohawk, and Creek. Mills, Will Rogers, Geronimo. Unyielding, strong, indomitable. Native Americans call themselves many things. The one thing they don't.
Like I said again, I will put this link from this YouTube channel that you can actually see the commercial itself. And I'm pretty sure those of you that just listened to it, you could feel the emotion that was in this commercial. You can, at least I know I did. Just listening to it, it's very powerful. It's very moving. And after watching it, it's hard even for me to say, I have to say I support this. That this is something that I think the Washington Redskins, or at least this organization, they have to let this go. This campaign has very little to do with football. I feel like we should just kind of throw that out there. I think that we need to just, separate this story from a group attacking a football team. The football team is just kind of like the byproduct, in my opinion. The real story behind this, at least the way I see it, is just that this rather has more to do with an owner and an organization that seem to have very little regard for a certain race of people. At least that's the impression that I'm getting. Redskin, by its legal term, is a racial slur, and thus probably should be done away with. When you actually look up the name on Wikipedia, it states, I actually did some digging on this. Redskin is a racial descriptor of disputed origin for Native Americans. Although its original intent is a subject of debate, the term is defined in current dictionaries of American English as usually offensive, disparagingly, insulting, and taboo. So again, there can be those debates, but right now, it's not a word, it's not a term that needs to be said. It has no place in our society. It has no place within any professional team of any kind. I do acknowledge the sensitivity of this topic for many people, so I won't spend too much more time on it. I do actually have a great deal of respect and admiration for anyone that has any sort of Native American in them. One of the items on my bucket list personally has always been to experience a powwow of some sorts in my lifetime, and I hope to one day do so. I will say this, if this story were another case of some group of people or government officials trying to get a certain school or team or whatever to stop using any sort of Native American name or reference, then I would actually be siding with the school. As long as Native American groups have no issue with it, like those of the ancestors of the Ute tribe in Utah, or the ancestors of the Seminoles in Florida, then we should just leave it alone. However, that isn't the story or situation we have here. And from a distance, it appears to me that Dan Snyder knows he's losing this fight. If 50-some senators have all stated that this name needs to be changed, then no matter what his new lobbying group does, the name the Washington Redskins will be no more. We're now going to move on. This past Monday, as most of you have already heard by now, the NCAA announced that they had reached a $20 million settlement with Ed O'Bannon and Sam Keller. You probably should remember those two guys. Those are the two guys that had sued the NCAA and EA Sports for the money that the schools and the NCAA was making off the electronic video game, for college football and college basketball. And about a week ago, the gaming company Electronic Arts, or EA, the one that was responsible for making the popular video game that all of us played one time or another, they made a settlement for about another $40 million. So that actually brings the total to about $60 million that these two men have won for their respective sports. This agreement now means that every Division I men's basketball and FBS football player whose images and likeness or names were included in the game footage or in any EA video game after 2005 or have access to this money. Also get this, that $40 million settlement also covers athletes to 2003, even if they were not in the video game itself. This information actually is from ESPN.com. However, maybe the biggest settlement the NCAA made was making sure the rules on amateurs stayed intact for college sports. Because again, there has been this movement for the past few years to get college athletes to be paid. And it truly is unfortunate that I'm about to say this, but had the NCAA decided to take the route where they were the big bad wolf and allowed this to go to court, which would have happened in March of next year, then I do believe they would have lost, thus allowing college athletes to be paid. So I'm actually happy the NCAA did do the right thing and settle in this case. But one thing is for certain, after reading the words O'Bannon and Keller's lawyer, Steve Berman, you know that another college football and or basketball game will not be made anytime soon. Here is his comment, quote, "Going forward, I think people will be on notice that if they're going to use players' likenesses, they will have to pay for them." Yep, you heard that right. From now on, all college athletes are copyrighted. That may not be exactly how it was worded, but the underlining meaning is there. Here's my thing with this whole situation. I actually do support athletes getting better health coverages, along with some sort of help with meal plans and anything else that might help the school avoid the dreaded under an NCAA investigation. Because again, the NCAA has so many far-fetching rules, for its athletes that I think it does need to dial back a little bit. And I think that when it does that, I just feel that this argument, for athletes to be paid will start to kind of be dialed down a little bit. But for me, that's where it just needs to stay. Paying college athletes would open up an entire can of worms that neither schools, players, or NCAA wants any part of. Because again, you still have to remember, you still have to factor in Title IX. You still have to factor in the women, athletes. What do they get? What about the players that didn't have their likeness in a video game? Yes, there was a college baseball game at one time. There was even a college lacrosse game at one time. But neither one of those video games really took off the same way that college basketball and most definitely college football has. Now, according to Steve Berman, the lawyer for that represented both Keller and O'Bannon, he stated in the same ESPN article that over 100,000 athletes can file and receive anywhere between $400 to almost $2,000 each. Much of the final details are still being worked out, but how much an athlete gets will be determined by how many athletes apply for their end of the deal. Basically, the more people that actually sign up for this, the more people that, file for this claim to get this money from the NCAA and Electric Arts, they actually will get less. The more there is, the less money they actually get. But the less people that actually sign up, the more money one person can actually get. Kind of weird how that actually sounds when you actually really think about it. It's like it almost feels like, yeah, they won a major case, but it almost feels like they got robbed at the end of the day. It almost feels like, man, the money that they got, sure, it was great, but man, they should have gotten a lot more money out of the NCAA and a lot more money out of EA Sports. Now we get to see how many athletes believe they too should be compensated for their likeness being on a video game. However, according to ESPN, the fight is not yet over. The NCAA will have to meet with U.S. District Judge Claudia Wilkin in California on Monday to hear another case brought against them. This one is also being filed by Ed O'Bannon, along with other plaintiffs, that are asking for a, quote, injunction that would allow athletes to sell the rights to their own images in television broadcast and rebroadcast. Well, since now college athletes are technically copyrighted, this case seems like it will only be a small step, but a step nonetheless to college athletes getting paid. I do realize that college life is hard. I'm still learning that process out right now. But if athletes are so worried about getting paid, then in all seriousness, go find a job. Go find some work. Everyone else out there has to do so. Luckily enough for myself, I don't, because right now I'm living off of student loans and grants. But even that is barely even getting me by. College life was never meant to be a party, even though we do like to do so. But it's a time to find yourself in this world. However, college athletes, they are at the school to play sports, but that doesn't make them potential employees. It may seem that way, but how could you complain when you're getting a full ride to a very expensive school and get treatment that puts you on par of celebrity status? Johnny Manziel, anyone? Again, I do support medical insurance and other things that would help out the athletes, but I do not feel that athletes getting paid is the way to go. Okay, last topic for today, and then I have to go do a few other things today. So question, and I'm actually going to post this question too on my blog page. I want to hear from you. I want to know what you think about my show today. So question, if you felt like today you could walk into any professional team wanting a tryout, would you just show up or call and request a tryout? Most of you would probably say that you would call and request a tryout. However, almost a week ago, an unidentifiable man walked onto the practice field of the Cleveland Browns requesting a tryout. The only thing that has been reported is that the man was a former high school player from New Mexico, appeared to be in his mid-20s, and had an equipment bag and was promptly escorted from the premise without incident. It was speculated that the man got in by simply walking through the team's indoor field house. After being escorted from the field, a member of the Browns media relations staff, along with a security staffer, talked with the man, where this man told them that he had come to Cleveland with the hopes of getting a shot at being in the NFL. There is no word if the man ever did get his tryout, but someone from the Browns said that they feel that the man did not pose a threat to any coach or player. I find this story fascinating because this guy must have true skills to just think he could just show up to any NFL franchise and think he would be given a shot at being a pro football player. I do think the Browns should give this guy a shot. If he's not a threat to anyone, then it can't hurt the team. Clearly this guy believes he can compete with the best, so give him that opportunity to show what he can do. Do I think this guy will ever make the team? Well, we still don't know, since we really don't know who he is or even what school he played for. So it's really hard for us even to look up who this guy is because, again, his name has not been released. This guy clearly has a dream. So give him that opportunity to live it. So I really want to know this answer. How many of you would actually do that? Also, if you were the coaching staff and the owner, would you allow this guy to try out for your team? If I were the owner of the Browns, if my coaches and security believe that he is not a threat to anyone, I would allow it. I would tell him to show up tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. and come prepared to be tested. Then give this guy an invite to join the summer camp later next month, where he will be put in a pool of talented players to try to make the team in some capacity. If he's a good athlete and in good shape, and if he doesn't make the team, well, there's 31 other teams out there that could use him. Well, that is all the time I have for today. Thanks again for those of you listening to my podcast. I've had opportunities to hear from people from states in Washington, California, Utah, Idaho, and Nebraska. If there's something you'd like me to discuss, please leave a suggestion, and I'll actually take the time to actually discuss it in one of my next podcasts. I will do the research, and I will give you that answer. Also, I do welcome feedback, suggestions, and critiques. I love that you listen to my show, but please tell me suggestions. If you feel there is anything I can work on, tell me. Tell me what you like about my podcast, what you disagreed with. Like I said earlier, I did hear back from a few of you, and you have left me some great suggestions, and believe me, I'm going to incorporate them somehow. Reporting from Rexburg, Idaho, I'm Craig Handy, saying good night, and hey, go watch a ball game.